tonight. Thanks, Casey. Let me back up a little bit and tell you that Casey and I, you've heard us chatting. Casey is my very new friend and new colleague here at the University of Michigan, and I'll have him share more about his background with you in just a few minutes. Most of you know, I think, a little bit about who I am. I'm one of the 5 lead faculty for secondary teacher education. I run the World Languages Teacher Ed program. I also am lead faculty for one of our master's programs in leadership and policy. And in my spare time, I teach over at Ross every fall. So I do a lot of different things. My background as an educator is I've been a high school French and social studies teacher, and I've been a high school and middle school assistant principal and principal in a few different buildings in a few different states. So my favorite job ever is being a high school principal. I love those bad boys who don't want to do what they're supposed to be doing. I love to kind of disrupt what our sort of collective notion is about high schools and high school kids. I could care less if kids drop the F-bomb when they're talking to me. If kids are late, my first thought to myself is, I wonder what happened at home this morning. It doesn't mean I'm going to excuse it forever, but I guess I would just say, since all of us are studying secondary education, I would encourage you to always remember to think about your students as individual people first, and middle school or high school students second. Think about who they are, where they come from, what they need, what do they most need from you today. And I would urge you to never forget that every single day that you are an educator, I guarantee you, you will be the most important adult in somebody's life, and you might not even know it. So be the educator you need to be every day, all the time. And I hope that those of you who are in my cohort, we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about our philosophy of teaching and learning, how we show up in front of kids, how we maintain that commitment all the time. And I'm sure those of you in other cohorts will do the same thing as well. But you can always feel free to hang out with us if you want to. So let's talk IB. I'm going to talk about the certificate just very briefly, and then Casey's going to talk about how you get it here, and then we'll wrap up with questions. I don't think this meeting will be more than half an hour, but we're certainly happy to stay on as long as we need to. So International Baccalaureate, when you think about what it is from an educational standpoint, I'm proud to say it's everything we were already doing at U of M before we applied to offer this certificate. It's reflective. It focuses on metacognition, helping kids think about how they think and why they think things. It's globally focused. IB education asks us to think about our place in the world. IB education asks us to know other people's experiences in the world. Therefore, you'll know a language, you'll think about global history, etc. It's just, I would argue that it's the right way to teach. We therefore applied and were approved to offer the IB certificate in teaching and learning. So what is that? What does that get you? All of you will graduate ideally a year from this April or early May with a certificate to teach, fill in the blank, history, science, whatever it is you're studying. And you'll have a state of Michigan certificate that you can transfer to another state if you want to. But you will also, if you choose to do this, have an IB certificate in teaching and learning. What that does for you is that tells your prospective employer, your prospective principal or superintendent, that you not only learned the traditional way of teaching and you know everything that you need to know about special ed and lesson design and assessment and all that good stuff that we've always done, but you also now know it through an IB lens. You've worked at some level. All of you will have some experience in an IB school, we hope. All of you will work on IB type lesson planning, assessments, etc. And as I said before, it will be very, very linked to the work that you're already doing in your 307 classes, in your 392 class, in your methods courses. We take the work that you're doing there and we ask you to put an IB lens on it. We have 3 modules that you'll go through, one for each of your semesters. And in those modules, you'll have access to videos and articles and data and information. And all of those things will help you to learn how to do your teacher ed work through this IB lens. When you are finished and you complete the IB work with Casey, there's no charge to it. At the end of all that, you will only pay $300. You don't pay it to us. You pay it to the IB, and you will then be issued your certificate. As you could see from the statistics we shared, and they're not even updated, the statistics are even more remarkable in terms of the number of IB schools around the country and around the world, And for those of you wanting to stay in the area in Southeast Michigan, our IB presence is growing exponentially in this part of the state. So I would urge you to consider doing the certificate. Most secondary students end up doing it. There'll be times when you think to yourself, oh, I'm so busy, I'm just going to drop something. Don't drop this. This is an awesome thing for you to be doing, and it's free. I don't know how much longer it'll be free, but we're going to keep doing it free as long as we can. On that note, I'm going to hand it over to Casey. Casey, if you're a co-host, you can share your screen if at any point you want to. And at any point, folks, if we say something that sounds weird or you want to know more about it, don't wait to the end for questions. Just unmute and start talking. Okay? All right, Casey, it's all yours.
All right, so I'm super grateful for this opportunity to just engage with young teachers or new teachers, right? I guess I don't know your ages. We have a wide variety of students here. And for me, this work is really deeply personal. I am an IB coordinator at Plymouth Keaton Schools, which is about 25 minutes away from campus. And when I started this process of authorizing our school to become an IB school, I, at that point, had a 4-year-old. And every decision that I was making was really geared towards someday, when my young men, my young children are coming through, I want to help to create a school setting that all of my boys will participate and love. And oddly enough, I have an 8th grader this year, and we're starting the high school transition. So this is coming to fruition. So my role at my school is I'm an IB coordinator. So I serve as the diploma program coordinator, which is a program for 11th and 12th graders. I also serve, so that means I'm essentially the principal of the program. And then I also am a IB DP, which is diploma program psychology teacher. In addition to my role as kind of principal and coordinator, I also do a lot of work for IB as an organization as well. So I just got back from a visit. Unfortunately, it was virtual. But I did a visit to Minnesota this last week. I grade exams for IB, and I actually lead workshops to train new IB teachers to become, IB practitioners. And so when this position opened up, it was a natural fit for me. It's close. Someday when we're post-COVID, we'll be able to matriculate to campus and engage and have this wonderful dialogue and support you. But for now, we are in this format, and it still is going to work great because most of our, or really all of our work, is done in an online module or online formats. And I really want to echo what Maria said. Just today, we have a student that is going to be a senior. I think they're the secondary max student, and they've had a challenging semester. They're really worried about their ability to succeed and finish. And their question to me was, will I have enough time to do this? And I looked at them and I said, first of all, I want to give you a hug because of the stuff you've dealt with this semester. But I just respond back to him. I said, I promise you, I will work with you and I will support you and I will be a cheerleader when you need it. I will be a task manager when you need it. Just really treated him as a human that needed some support. And so through this weird semester that we just got done, and we're going to start another one here that's different, Marie and I are committed to supporting you through this journey. And I would say, again, for me personally, having school-age children, we need you. I'm a colleague of yours. And so a lot of this work is about supporting you as the next generation of teachers. And that's exciting. That's awesome to me that I get to play a role in the start of your professional careers. And I just think about, had I had this training when I was 21, 22, or the start of my college or start of my teaching career, I could have been making that much more of a difference for the first 7 to 8 years of my career. I happened to luck out to be in a place where I got this training, but I don't like leaving things up to luck, right? I want all teachers to have the opportunity to engage this type of dynamic curriculum. And whether that's you end up at an IB school or not, this is best practice. This is it. This is the work. And this just gives us a formal structure to support you through. And it's really, really exciting that we did get to engage in this. So I am living it with you all. I am a teacher with my own students. I have new preps and new things and new buildings and new people. I am right there walking next to you, step by step with you on this journey. And I remain committed to that work over the course of the next year and a half. And so that's a real privilege for me. And I don't take it lightly because you matter. Your experience matters because, as Maria said, you're going to have thousands of kids over the course of your career that you are going to be their hero. Not every day, but someday you will be an important adult, a trusted adult. On any given day, you are somebody's trusted adult. So where do we go from here? Well, this is the program. I do want to share one lens of, there's the teaching and learning component of this, but there is also truly I'm a year and a half, or you're a year and a half away potentially from entering the job market. What does this do for me? How does this separate myself from my peers? I'm going to actually share my screen here. Just to give you some of the stats, and I know Maria shared, I think she shared this PowerPoint with you, but I do want to draw your attention to just a couple of slides. I know we normally do this in a breakout room, you could have some conversation, but we're just going to share the screen. And I just want to let you see some of the numbers. If you haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Casey, there you go. I was
just a little slow on my end, yeah.
No, I want to make sure I set you up properly.
Oh, with the sharing settings. So on the screen here, you should see, kind of just get a thumbs up if you see data on facts and figures. All right, so we're all learning this Zoom feedback loops. We see a huge number of schools in the area that are, or this is, I guess, internationally. I'm actually going to go to the next slide, and this is the Michigan slide. Where did it go? Oh, I thought it was on. Oh yeah, here we go. 93 IB programs in Michigan. And I will say in the last 2 years, I know of at least 7 more in the state of Michigan that have been authorized and are now running the program. Just this past summer, we had a media specialist position open. And we get a lot of applicants in Plymouth Canton. There's the big school district, kind of sandwiched between Ann Arbor and Detroit. It's a desirable location. We've got a really great school set up, and so we get lots of applicants. I sit on a lot of interviews, and I screen a lot of applicants. And the 4 of us that were screening applications, we all hit upon this one candidate that had IB experience, only a year of IB experience from a school in North Carolina. All 4 of us independently pulled that application and said, well, we got to interview them. They've got some experience in IB, we're an IB school, we know what this means. And so in an application pool where there might be sometimes hundreds of employees applying for a position, even with just 1 year of experience, having that IB certification or having that IB training was something that brought that candidate to our pile. Now, that gave her the chance to shine and show all the things and have the conversations that were so relevant, but it gave her a foot in the door to the application process. And that is like some of the work that this certificate can do for you is get you a seat at the table, where then all the training that you've had, the extended not student teaching, what do you guys call it, the observational hours and the field placements, that work you do there then will allow you to shine. And it really does offer you an insight that you will be recognized in a stack of applicants just by having the certificate as having more knowledge, and be thinking, and that you can think about things like assessment at a deeper level, that you're aware of the whole child, that you're really interested in developing skills. And that is just something that as a new teacher, it's going to provide you that structure and support to be successful. All right. All right, I'm just going to stop sharing here because this saves everybody's bandwidth, I think, probably when we're not sharing as much. Okay. Over the course of the next 3 semesters, again, you'll be enrolled in these really, if we were to assign a credit hour to them, I would say that they're probably less than 1 credit hour of time and commitment. And that will progress over the 3 semesters, but really the first module that we'll take is really just about an introduction to IB philosophy and what it kind of seeks to instill in the teachers and in the students. From there, we start to look at IB unit planning, IB lesson planning, and start to think about how we'll assess students and their knowledge. And then the 3rd module really helps us to take a look at assessment and how do we communicate. We'll look at grading policies that are a little more progressive. It's just a nice parallel with your School of Education experiences. And again, it's just that extra lens that you're going to look through to support you on this journey. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some of the questions that students will generally ask in this. Maria, what are some of the questions that students generally, I mean, I guess I could turn it to them. Are there things that the students generally want to know?
When it comes to modules, sorry.
Go right ahead.
That's okay,
No,
go for it.
right ahead.
When coming to the modules, is it a synchronous time of learning or is it asynchronous for the semester?
For all 3 semesters, it'll be asynchronous. And so, we have some students that will progress earlier, right? And we'll have some that, we'll kind of spread it out. So really get to work at your own pace, which is nice and convenient. I will say for me, I like to give feedback. Most of your assessments in the course are formative, right? They're about having this conversation, having this dialogue. And so when you submit work, usually within a couple of days, you'll get either some questions or some feedback back from me. Most of the time, students don't need to do any sort of resubmission, but we like to give you feedback so that you can improve. Oftentimes, I'll challenge students to ask their mentor teachers, ask your mentor teacher about this. What are their thoughts on this? Pose these questions. Because I don't want it to be my only experience, right? I want you to be asking these questions of multiple people, your colleagues in your classes as well, your cohorts. But it's really about feedback. So you get to work at your own pace. And then at the end of each module, there is a summative assessment. And it actually is we call it a capstone experience in each module. And it actually fits really well into a teaching portfolio that you would be assembling or that you will assemble towards the end of your time in the college or school of education. So bigger than that, I say it's intentional and it's purposeful. It's not, these aren't assignments that are like, oh yeah, check this box, jump through this hoop. This is the deep work that even as an experienced teacher, there are some of the same routines that we pull back at our schools to about supporting teachers in being reflective and improving, or as I would say, just developing the written curriculum or the assessed curriculum. These are the same things that I ask my teachers to do in my schools that have been teaching for 5 or 10 or 20 years. And we want to give you this framework so that when you're at a school, whether it's IB or not, we're giving you those tools to be a reflective practitioner that you can take with you in 7 years from now, 10 years from now, you can still use these same tools to improve your practice.
And Lizzie, one thing I would want all of you to know, but I'll address it to you since you raised the question of synchronicity versus asynchronicity. Just so you all know, these modules were designed long before COVID, and they were designed to be asynchronous even then. And that's on purpose because we want you to be able, as Casey's saying, to go through your teacher ed program and then fit this work in around it in a way that works for you. The other thing I would say, also emphasizing something Casey said, I guarantee you there is no busy work in these modules. And if you come upon something that feels like busy work, I want to hear from you because I could have made a mistake or it's something worth talking through. But I cannot stand busy work at the university level. Yeah, Casey, how about talking a little bit
about at the high school level? So we do want to know about it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Casey, could you talk very briefly about the general timeline, like this winter term, what the timeline is for Module 1, fall term, what the timeline is for Module 2, and next winter, what the timeline is for Module 3?
Sure. So in probably within the next 2 weeks, we look to start Module 1. So there'll be a timeline here where we ask for just some registration so we can get you enrolled into the Canvas course. Again, not enrollment through University of Michigan on your credit or your, My Student account, just a conversation with us or emails to us, and we'll get you enrolled. And then within the next couple of weeks, we'll start the first module. The first module is a little bit lighter, just because it's an introduction to philosophy of the program. And we also want to make sure you're getting support, interacting, getting used to the feedback I'm going to give you, the type of work. To do deep thinking takes time and space. Right? I don't want you to jump into some sort of busy work assignment. I want you to sit on this content, be able to marinate in it a little bit or chew it up a little bit and really think about it because it does parallel some of your work in your other classes. And then, so we generally have timelines to about the end of the first semester. It might be a week before. The capstone project is certainly not big, but I want to make sure I have the time to give feedback and good marking to you. I want to be able, that's the important part. And so the module will essentially end at the conclusion of this semester. And I think we've delayed the semester, right? Because I think now it ends in May. I would have to look at the larger university calendar, but I have flexibility there too. For the undergrad, I'm sorry, I get the term mixed up. For the secondary ed students that are not secondary MAC students, we'll continue on the fall. And that's module 2, which is like curriculum writing and just a brief introduction to assessment. And then the third semester is where we'll get more into assessment and building this kind of capstone portfolio that you'll be working on. In each unit, there's usually about 4, maybe 5 assignments that you have to do that are submitted for me to review. So very manageable. And again, hopefully I'm conveying to you, like I'm pretty flexible and I want to make sure that this is done well. I'm not interested in this being rushed last minute. I want you to take pride in your work and set high expectations for yourself. And as I've addressed, like I'm right here with you. Like your success matters to me deeply. Like you're teaching our children, goodness gracious, like you doing well is really, really important. Each time you submit an assignment, you'll get feedback from me. Very seldomly do students need to resubmit something. If they do, it's just because they maybe missed part of the instructions or didn't do an element of it. But I will oftentimes provide my feedback in the form of questions because I want you to think and I want you to reflect. That's really important to me. At the very, very end, there is of each module or each semester, there is a capstone experience that you must reach a certain threshold in order to, I guess, successfully pass that module. With the submission, if for some reason a student were not to be able to meet that criteria, they would have a chance to resubmit. I am not too embarrassed to admit that I had to take my driver's ed test 3 times. I could not parallel park. I'm so thankful that I had an opportunity to reassess and to retest and to demonstrate that I have mastery of this content. That's a practice I have in my classroom. Kids have unlimited reassessments. Not that needs to be an expectation for all of you by any means, but I'm telling you this because I want you to get it right. I don't want you to be right the first time. I want us to get it right and do well at it. And so feedback is king for me. Like that is the thing that's most important, is helping you reflect and grow. And not just for, let's see, April, but for a year and a half from now.
How about some other questions, my friends? What else do you want to know about? What have we not made clear?
Great explanation, guys. Thank you for this. Really helpful. I guess my question would be, are any of the modules individualized towards specific content areas at all? Like, are there going to be any sort of math or world language specific content, or is it mostly just an overview of the IB program?
So
you want to take that, Casey, or you want me to?
I'll go ahead and take it, yeah. In the modules, because you were generating, right, this is generative. It's not about like, you just check this off, demonstrate in some sort of multiple choice test that you've read this document. Throughout it, you're generating and applying the conceptual underpinnings, and you then take it and apply it to your subject area. This could be, sometimes it's going to be based on your experiences as a student. Sometimes it'll be based on your experience as a pre-student teacher. Sometimes it's generative in the way of, what do you envision? Knowing that these things will change over time, right? We're fluid. I'm a different teacher now than I was 3 years ago, right? I've modified, I developed than I was 10 years ago, than I was 15 years ago. And so these are about these kind of reflection points and touchstones that you're going to have this opportunity to tailor it and personalize it to what's going to fit you best. So you might be a general science major, but right now your placements might be in a biology class, right? We want to make it meaningful for you, so you can be thinking about the units, the classrooms that you're in. You might desire that you want to teach physics or chemistry, but right now you're in an earth science class. You have the choice and opportunity to do either of those, right? You can make it so it's the classroom you're in right now, or you could say, this is what I'm really gunning for this. This is what I want. I'm going to do my modules and my reflections on this subject area. And that's actually one of the great things is of the IB approaches, that we get ourselves out of these silos of, I'm a world language teacher, I'm an economics teacher, I'm an English teacher. One of the hallmarks of an IB teacher or the IB programs is that we are all language teachers. We are all responsible and have to be intentional about how we teach the discourse language of our communities. Like we are language teachers, all of us at the core. And so I guess to kind of circle back to your question is that they're not intentionally designed for a math cohort or a science cohort, but they're designed so that you have to bring all of yourself as your discipline. Like you bring yourself to this work because it's personal. Having your voice matters in this process.
Those of you in my cohort will hear me say this all the time, starting when I first visit your 307 class this semester. And that is that from now on, when someone says to you, what do you teach? I don't want to hear you say, I teach physics, or I teach math, or I teach French. I want to hear you say, I teach kids. And I get to do it through the lens of chemistry or French or German. But we teach kids first. We don't teach content first. What else would you like to know about?
I'm just very intrigued. I'm from Massachusetts, and we like really don't have IB programs. Like it's more AP based. So it's kind of the first time I'm hearing about it. I guess in that way, like if I'm going back to more Northeast where it's a little less common, how would you say I could talk to a future employee who isn't familiar with the IB program and how that is beneficial?
So I would first say that there are a lot of IB schools in the Northeast. Like I've done a school visit in the last 2 years to a school in, I always say it wrong. It's right by, it was the subway stop Dorian Heights, over by Revere, Massachusetts. And I just did another IB school visit in, I want to say Deep River, Connecticut area. Like there are schools that are there. It's this awareness that like now that you know about them, you'll start to see them pop up. Certainly I would say, and actually as we had this conversation, being an AP teacher for several years is what drove me to explore doing IB. I used to teach AP psychology, and there are 1,763 terms that the students need to know in AP psychology. And they don't have to do a darn thing with them. They need to recognize you're going to get one of these two terms on a test.
Spit it back.
That's what you have to do. That's what you have to like. That's what you have to do. And you played a test prep game. I was like, these are motivated, like really dying to learn more about the world students. Like our smartphones can look up any thing at any time, and it really led me to explore it. So I think really, like Maria said, the things that you can lead with are focusing on being student-centered. Right? That is even all of the diagrams, all the program models, the very center of the program is a focus on the student. Things that you'll learn in this program as well, there's something in IB we call approaches to teaching and learning, which is, you might have heard the term scaffolding or chunking for students. You'll learn these terms a little bit more as we progress through, but it's about being really intentional about teaching some of these, what we call soft skills, but they're the real skills that matter as educators. And this is that, we think back to our own experiences of, we might have had a teacher or professor that does a really good job at teaching us reflection. And we lucked out because we got that teacher. We might have had a teacher that does a really great job at teaching us how to write, but we lucked out because we got that teacher. This is about how do we create a series of teachers or systematically teach or show teachers how to teach reflection, how to develop writing skills in all students, how to develop oral and written communication skills, how to self-manage their emotions. It's not just because Lizzie just happens to be a great teacher and helps kids learn to self-regulate. It's because this can be taught to students. We can develop this ability in our young teachers or in our older teachers. We can develop this intentionally. And when we pay attention to it, that's how we develop these skills. And so by the end of this course, you will have the ability to talk about, this is how I'm going to support and structure things for all students. Mm-hmm. It's not accidental, it's intentional. And look, over the course of a year or a semester, this is how I can develop these skills in our students. Right? You're going to learn about backwards planning. I know you'll learn about this in your, that's not, what number is that?
Methods.
The methods courses. You will learn about that in the methods courses, and it's going to be echoed and amplified by your IB work. Mm-hmm. So that'll be part of the process. I think a year from now, if you were to ask that question, you'll be like, oh yeah, I've got 20 things I could talk about specifically related to IB.
And I'm going to make it just really simple. For all of you, I mean, I've read many of your essays about when you apply to the School of Ed, why you wanted to be a teacher. This is the kind of stuff you want to do. This is the kind of stuff you wrote about. This is the kind of thing these are the kinds of ways you talked about relating to students and understanding students, developing students as citizens for the world. This is what you want to do. And this is what this program will give you. I'm also going to tell you that as Casey was talking, I found 29 IB schools in Massachusetts. So IB schools are exploding all over the place. But just remember, there's no reason to think that just because you have an IB certificate, you have to end up in an IB school. We'd like you to, or you might want to, but you don't have to. And the IB certificate is going to work for you no matter where you teach, this country and abroad. I promised you about a half an hour meeting. We're a little bit over, so I'm going to stop and see what other questions are out there.
Yeah, just got a quick question kind of relating to that. How does this IB translate to, like, does it facilitate working in other states or other countries?
It does. Let me say something really quick about other states first, and we can talk briefly about teaching abroad. You'll hear the term, people will talk about transferring a certificate to another state. If any of you are interested in teaching in a different state, if you know what that state is, I would urge you even now, you're a year away from looking for a job, but even now, just get on the State Department of Education website in that state, click on certification, and you'll find two types of certificates. One, there'll be information about if you live in that state and you don't have a certificate, how do you get one? And the other link will be about you have a certificate, as you all will, how do you transfer it to, say, Wyoming? So you can get a sense of what that would look like. It generally tends to be fairly easy to do that. If you have an IB certificate, this IB certificate is not state or country dependent. This IB certificate is worldwide. So your state of Michigan certificate is state-based. This certificate is not. I would also, I can promise you that if you apply to teach abroad, let's say you're interested in international schools or American schools abroad or host nation schools, if you happen to have a work permit or you happen to have dual citizenship, when that school sees your IB certificate, you are sending them a message that you have a common worldwide language around teaching that a lot of people don't have. So I would say it's extremely valuable, both in country as well as abroad.
Yeah, if you're looking abroad, there's definitely a market. I mean, I have many friends that will go do 2 or 3 kind of tours, they call them, between different countries. I mean, I have one friend who's been teaching internationally. He moves every 3 years. This is what he's been doing for 30 years. Yep. And his family and his kids. And certainly if you are at an international school and you have this certificate, it absolutely, like, I can think of a number of individual anecdotal cases where this is going to not only get you a foot in the door, it's going to get you almost an immediate interview because they would like to have those that have English proficiency is really powerful. And they also want to have the experience of bringing diverse student bodies from all around the globe to teach at this school. There are many schools that have, they're essentially almost like quotas of, we want to have a certain number of teachers from North America, a certain number from South America. We want to have a diverse population. And it's a known entity, right? If you've done this certificate, they can already know that you've done this work and done this deep thinking. That's a valuable asset to me to save time and money as a school to say, we've got these resources of this new teacher that has this training and has the certificate. So yeah, there's the interstate one that you definitely want to research. Sometimes it's as simple as sometimes you have to take a reading course to transfer your license. Many times you don't need to take any courses.
Right. Other questions? Okay, my friends, so here's the deal. First of all, this conversation is not over. You can email me or Casey anytime at all. And you have our emails because we were both on the email, the original email that you got. Number 2, if you are interested in signing up for Module 1 for the IB, all you need to do is write to Casey. Let him know who you are. Make sure he has your UMich email, so email him from that account, not from another account. Let him know which cohort you're in, which content area you're in, and he will write back and get you all hooked up with a module. The module is the Canvas site, so it's going to look like any other Canvas site that you have for a class. Pretty highly organized. I think they're well designed. Again, we are completely open to feedback. In fact, I'd love to hear from all of you about one thing you like as you get started and one thing you think from a student perspective we should change, because I want to make this as student friendly and as appropriate and as relevant as possible every semester. So write to me. So write to Casey if you want to do this. Make sure he has your UMich email. Write to either of us at any time with questions. And the link that we sent you for that little PowerPoint slideshow, Casey showed you a part of it when he shared a screen. That has a ton of information if you want to go back and have a peek at that. So, Casey?
And I would just echo that same component of, that questions are absolutely appropriate when you have them. It's not an inconvenience or burden. Like, this is literally my job.
It is our
And
job.
you'll learn too, like, it's kind of my passion. Like, I'm pretty up to my eyeballs deep in the IB philosophy. I was joking with Maria before, I have no problems being an apostle for things related to IB. This is my world. And it has made me such a better teacher and a better human, even more so. Like,
Yeah.
I'm a much better human, spouse, coworker, neighbor, all the things because of this journey. And I'm really thankful for the opportunities it's given me. I will also send out a reminder email, just a reintroduction. In that email I'll send out too, I will also have some commentary from a couple principals or a principal, some teachers, a couple other coordinators. I'm trying to rally up some student comments too about why should new teachers pursue this certificate. So you don't have to listen to Marie and I, you can listen to other practitioners, other students, and other teachers about what this has meant for their journey along the way. I think about, we send many students to U of M from my school, and you talk about this common experience and common language. There's a student that's last year, they didn't really move in the students this year, many of them. But last year, many of them said, I felt bad for my one roommate who had not done IB.
Oh,
The rate only of the quad, 3 of the 4 had done IB. And they felt bad because it was like, we're this clique, we know the language, we know all these things, the same experiences. And it was like this universal language that they were able to speak with just so quickly because of their experiences, of what it meant. And even though one kid was from California, another was from down the street in Michigan, and the other one was I think, from Florida, instantaneously they were able to speak the language of the IB. And this is the same thing that happens at schools. We just hired a new media center specialist from North Carolina, and day one, she was able to speak the language of our school. She was able to engage, and we were able to look at each other and just go, we know what each other is talking about. We have this advanced conversation about assessment, about learning about humans and how do we provide support and pastoral care for our humans. And that was so powerful to say, it's your day one at this job. And you can come out of the gate like just flying because you have this common language. There's just a magical thing to have that advanced experience that you will have doing the certificate program. Just so inspiring.
And before we leave tonight, which I promise we're about to do, Casey and I also want to share one final thing with you that's not about the IB certificate in particular, but you've started the teacher ed program at a really challenging time. And all of you, I'm sure, in your own way, are exhausted from being on Zoom, probably uninspired many days in terms of how Zoom teaching and learning looks and feels. And I'm sure, not just because of this, where we are right now, but this is true for most students who start teacher ed, you will have days of doubt. And you will ask yourself, I wonder if this is right for me. You may have pressure from folks in your life, parents, significant others who say, you go to U of M and you're super smart, you want to be a teacher? What's the matter with you? Some of you are getting that kind of pressure. Reach out to me and Casey if that happens and you want to talk, because I can guarantee you, you are in, outside of being a parent, the most important thing anyone can do is teach another human being. It doesn't matter. Think about anybody you know. Think about Joe Biden. He's where he is partially because of his teachers. Think about anybody you admire. They're there partially because of their teachers. So if you find yourself doubting whether or not this profession is for you, hang in there and reach out to us. And also remember that you can make this profession into anything you want it to be. Your job as you continue to work with us throughout the next 3 terms is to keep asking yourself, where and how do I see myself teaching? Do I like the idea of a typical large public school where Casey teaches? Do I feel called to be in a smaller school for whatever reason? Do I want to teach abroad? Where do you want to be? And make sure that you know that that's your job going through teacher ed. Be critical. Ask yourself, is this working for me? What would I do differently? But those days when you have doubts, Casey and I are here. It doesn't have to be about IB. And you will have those days, especially during COVID. Okay? My friends, thank you so much for taking the time to spend part of your evening with us. We appreciate you. And we are here for you. Reach out to us, okay? Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop the recording. If anybody has other specific questions, you're welcome to stick